Meeting to order and Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, we have Doug, we have Ted, we have Kathy, we have Sam. Mike and Greg have excused absences, and Bob, we're hoping will join us. But we'll go ahead since we have a quorum. Public comment later. Okay. So we'll go ahead to approval of the minutes for August 17th, 2022.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second by Sam.
Correction. There's a sentence that says, Chair Light agreed it was dangerous to raft boats. She was not opposed to renting balls when patrons left for a week or two, but she was opposed to marking the ball when people left to get fuel or water. I do believe there was a not left out between was and opposed.
Because I'm opposed to not being able to mark. Okay? So who makes the correction?
We'll make a note of it, and then we'll provide you with another copy for you.
Because it says I was opposed to marking them, I think we should be able to mark them. So however that gets worded.
And I would just include that in your motion, then the amended.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the amended minutes per Ted's comment.
Sam?
Second.
Any other discussion, amendments? Hi, Bob.
Hi, good morning, sorry.
Good morning. No problem. We knew you would get here when you got here, so. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. The motion, the minutes passed with the one correction. Approval, let's see, staff report.
Just to begin, Jason Freeman, Public Works for the record. Just wanted to remind everybody that if you haven't already, the reappointment applications are going to be due this Friday by noon. Kathy, Bob, Ted, and Sam, all of you are up for reappointment if you're interested. Just make sure to turn that application in if you haven't already to the clerk's office. And just for the general public or anyone listening as well, for all the advisory committees, the town clerk's office is asking you to turn in your applications by this Friday, September 23rd by noon. And all committee appointments and reappointments will go to town council at their October 3rd meeting for approval.
Did you receive my application?
I will double check with the clerk's office. I believe they have.
Did you receive my application?
I'll double check and let you all know.
I think I got one.
Okay. You were supposed, do you have the paper for?
I'll have them print one out for you, Bob, and I'll get you it at the end of the meeting. But I just want to let you all know that'll be going to the October 3rd town council meeting.
I do know that Amy got mine. I sent it to her.
Perfect.
You can just email it.
I just handed mine to the front desk.
Okay.
Print one and
Of
I'll
course.
do it in case.
You got it.
All right. Okay. Staff report.
Town of Fort Myers Beach Harbor Master Austin Gilchrist for the record. We've been busy with the expansion of the mooring field here for this last month. We did post letters, like I said, asking everybody to be out of the expanded area by August 31st. At that time, I believe we counted 22 vessels in that area. As of today, I believe we have 3, and 2 of them we have contact with the owners and they're scheduled to leave, with one with no contact that we're working with the sheriff's office to go ahead and get verification on ownership of that and then see if we can get that one removed. But we are on schedule to have all those boats removed and the expansion moving forward. We have been in talks with the contractor and getting dates and everything set up for them to come in. They're just working on it with equipment and things like that and getting everything ready. But we're looking at the end of this month to the beginning of next month to have boats in the water over there to get the systems put in. We have worked out with the Sheriff's Department in getting notifications to these vessels and these boaters about what the expected time for them to remove them, and we have seen an increase in the Sheriff's Department in the backwater since the meeting. So we do have some law enforcement that have been helping us out removing these vessels and getting the word out of what we're doing. We have started prepping for season for the last month. We have relocated a few vessels, moving from the back of the field to the front of the field and so forth, just getting everybody situated so we can run the field more economically and be ready for the influx. At this time, we have about 40 boats on the wait list that are expected to come in, but those are expected between the next 2 months that they put in their request to come into the field. So we are expected to have a high season this year. We've pulled the pump out boat, washed it out. It's running great. As you all know, we've got a new pump out boat. It's up for its 100-hour service now, so we're gonna be putting it in for another oil change and things like that. But it's been helping us out. We did assist 5 vessels in relocating. Basically what we do, we just sit alongside them and make sure that their vessels relocate to where they need to go while they're passing the mooring field, because these are the vessels that have been in the Anchorage field and haven't moved for quite some time. So just as a safety precaution, we kind of just rode alongside them in case anything were to go wrong while they're passing through the field as they were anchoring back Hurricane Path. We did all that with no issues so far, but like I said, we've got one, I think, boat that we're unaccounted for that we're trying to remove. Let's see here. Oh, we've met with Boda's staff. We're trying to set up a meeting with Bowditch in the county. I'm trying to get some cooperation with them on that dock and try to get some of our patrons in line with the county rules. Now that we're starting to expand out to that area, I'm trying to build a better relationship with the county and Bowditch Park, because I believe a lot of the boaters are going to be utilizing that area. So I'd like to get their rules down and verbiage. And another thing I've been working on is trying to get uniformed signage throughout all of our dockage on the island, whether it's a county dock or our dock. I would like to have everything match up and basically match our rules and ordinances up with the county as well, to make sure nothing conflicts with each other and to make sure all the rules are pretty much in line upon all of our dockage areas. Yeah, and other than that, pump outs, we're just keeping a steady pump out. We're up to about 2,500 gallons for this month. So we're just keeping an ongoing one with that and just trying to keep things steady moving in the field this month.
Any delinquencies?
We've had one delinquent payment come through. We charged back fees on them, but it was a credit card default that a person, I think it was a wet storage boat that we were having trouble getting contact with, but that got all resolved within the week. We are starting to see an influx of inquiries come into the office. A lot of people are starting to, the word's getting out of our operation and how we're handling it now, so a lot of people are starting to come and check out this area. We're starting to get a lot of people wanting to store their vessels here as well, so we're starting to see an influx in inquiries as well in the office.
Any other questions?
That completes staff report.
I have a couple questions. Last meeting, we talked about, and we made a recommendation not to allow rafting during the season. And at that time, you indicated that it was a common practice and you were going to find other mooring fields that allowed that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we found 2 mooring fields that did allow it, so.
and who are they?
It was Vero Beach, the one you recommended, and then I believe it was Sarasota, one in Sarasota. I forgot the name of it, but it was a private,
Private one.
private one
Okay.
as well.
Because the Vero Beach situation, I've been there, and it's completely different than our situation.
Okay.
It's entirely enclosed with islands, and the waters are calm, even in storms.
Okay.
So I don't know, the regular Sarasota mooring field is not, but they don't allow it, I know. You're saying a private mooring field
Yeah.
up there?
But I would just like to comment on that in general. That is in conflict with our harbor management plan, the recommendation of that. We do have a clause in there that states we are to rent out those vessels while boats are not in those systems. And then again, it does create a hazard for the staff as well, having to maintain these vessels while the owner is not able to get to these vessels. Because if you are marking it with a dinghy, or if you are marking it with any.
That's not what we're talking about.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're talking
Yeah,
about rafting.
Oh, I'm sorry, the rafting, yes, I'm sorry. The rafting, that was the 2, and basically where we were with that, I'm sorry, was we were doing it at request only, okay? And that was basically, it wasn't common practice, or we didn't find it common practice to the sense of what we were referring to as rafting, as far as assigning 2 boats when they come into the field. We were rafting upon request only. And other fields, they do allow it upon request, but it is not common practice. I'm sorry, I got confused with the dinghy. But
What other mooring fields do it upon request?
it was the Vero Beach one that
Just
did
those
do that
two.
one, and I'm sorry, it was the Sarasota, the private one as well that did it.
Whether it's on request or not, I still think it's a dangerous practice, and I worry, there's no real way, I know coastal engineering has signed off on it, but there's no real way for them to test the helix. So we have afternoon thunderstorms that'll have 50 and 60 mile an hour winds that come up, boom.
They do test the helix poles.
Okay, they do,
Yeah, they do test the weight on them, and
Okay.
I believe they're at 30,000.
okay.
But
Well-
there is no set of regulations for how to tie up rafting.
Well, it's upon our, I guess, our inspection of it, and that's basically how we're operating now.
So
Well, in
where
any
do
case,
stand? Where do
we
stand?
made a motion last time that we recommended that it not happen. Okay, the other question, the other thing I want to bring up too while we're here is that I went to the last town council meeting with our recommendation of 25% increase in the mooring field rates, daily, weekly, and monthly. And Roxanne, am I correct? You guys are still working through all of that
Tomorrow night is the final hearing on the budget.
on the budget? At that time, I found out that the staff is suggesting dropping the weekly rate. And I want to know how our committee feels about that, because that's not anything that we knew about, and just kind of finding out the reason why.
I thought that was discussed at the last AAC meeting.
No, we did not recommend that, but the staff is recommending that we drop the weekly rate. And
So when you spoke at the town council meeting, you were just speaking for yourself, not for the committee?
we recommended at our meeting an across-the-board, daily, weekly, monthly, 25%.
Right, but you spoke against dropping the weekly rate, and I was under the impression that you did that based on a motion of the committee.
No, I think I made it clear that we hadn't ever discussed it because we didn't know about it.
My memory may be faulty.
Because that's what I wanted to find out in this meeting, because we were perhaps I didn't make it clear enough either, I don't know. But we were unaware that the staff was recommending that. So we actually really never had a discussion about it. But our motion was to raise everything across the board, daily, weekly, monthly. It actually says that in here.
When you say you were unaware of it, it was not on the proposed fee schedule that you guys had at the last meeting.
Well, it was on the fee schedule that was given to you. Councilman Veach gave it to me and showed it to me before the meeting started. And I'm just trying to get some clarification, and maybe clarification from our committee, if I'm correct that you're recommending that and what the reason is for it.
So we'll still offer a weekly rate, it's just gonna be the daily times a 7.
Well, but that's not a weekly rate. That's a daily rate.
It's, okay, yeah.
Because we have
it'll
a
be-
different weekly rate at this point.
We do have a different, currently we do have a different weekly rate, but the weekly rate would just be that, I believe it's 175 if everything goes through, the daily 25 times 7.
And the reason for changing what we do?
We didn't have any reservations on the weekly rate. It was just something that wasn't utilized at the time. So staff was in discussions of eliminating the weekly rate, but it became apparent that eliminating the weekly rate would cause for us to have to amend the harbor management plan in order to do so. So that's why we just factored in the weekly rate at the daily rate times 7.
Okay. Well, the fee schedule I saw that Mr. Veach showed me, it was taken out.
Okay, we'll review that and check it out. But it was a discussion.
Is there a reason that, like, I guess what we're saying is the weekly rate was sort of a discount from the daily rate,
Correct.
and the monthly rate's a discount, further discount? What are the percentages of those discounts? Do we know?
Well, the weekly rate currently, I think, is about 5 to 5.5 daily.
Okay.
You know, a lot of places I've stayed before, a weekly rate will give you 1 day free. Like,
Yeah.
that's the rate it will be. It will be like you paid 6.
And a monthly rate.
And a monthly might be 3 weeks or something like that,
Like a week free or,
something like that, or at least several days. I mean, I think everyone's different in that, but the weekly rate, and if you went back and looked at the mooring field rates that they gave us, some of them have it, some of them don't. So it's kind of,
So per the harbor management plan, as of right now, we are required to have a weekly rate. So to answer your question, we do have a weekly rate.
yeah, it's just not
Not
discounted.
the
It's not
discount that it currently has, correct?
anybody have an opinion?
What's the benefit of the weekly rate? Does it
Yeah,
get
that was
more,
gonna be-
what is it?
My question is gonna be,
It was,
is there a particular reason to take it out and not offer a discount?
okay, so basically what would happen was people were coming into the field on a weekly rate and then realizing if they were staying another month, then it was discounting it more for the monthly rate. So basically what was happening was it was an unutilized service, even though it was there, people were utilizing it just to the benefit of the discount for the monthly, because it was pretty much canceling itself out due to either you're staying a day or a month. Because if you stay a few weeks, that is the least economical way to stay. Either you're staying a day at that rate or you're staying the monthly rate. The weekly rate was basically something that at the end user would cost more, but it was just more services that was not being used because nobody used it.
How did it work? Like, let's say somebody took the weekly rate and then they said, I want to stay 3 more nights. Did they get that at a prorated off the weekly rate, or did they just have to pay the straight nightly rate after
I believe
the
it just,
weekly?
I calculated a daily rate for the 3.
Tied up in this, my question about the income versus the expenses in our new system.
Sure.
And I note that we have huge increases in usage, and our funds have, gross funds have gone up about equivalent to the usage going up. The gross funds, whether they went to the 45% of them went to the upland provider. The question is, are we in balance without the increase in basically our expenses? I've tried to follow it, and the present expenses seem fairly well balanced with the income. And how much more for 2 more people to do it? Do we need the increase in order to cover the new personnel, is what I'm trying to say.
Personnel and services, correct. I know there's a lot of improvements that AAC and everyone has been talking about, as well as operations, making everything the most efficient and optimized as possible. The town, we believed that those increases will help cover those. I know this past year has been a little bit different from what I can understand, since the town has taken everything in-house. Like you said, we don't have the upland service provider anymore. Now we have the office down there, so we're getting a true test on how much the annual expenses will be. I think we officially took over in October, November of last year, so we're coming up on 1 year. So that's just what was forecasted for town staff to maintain operations, include staffing. Austin's only has 2 full-timers right now, including himself. So just to maintain the level of service, and then also work on some of the projects and amenities that everyone has been looking into to help fund those as well, so.
Yeah, the way I read the previous presentations is we need more people, and that makes good sense. The question is, have we had a significant enough increase in income already to cover that? And the income, because of the increased usage, has gone up, and of course we get the 55% that we didn't used to cover. Given the figures, you have gone through that and determined that that is not enough funds to hire two new people, and you want to change some other things too, I
Correct.
understand. I'm trying to figure out how much of it's personnel and how much of it is new projects that we don't know about.
Right, maintenance operations, cleaning systems, replacing systems, all of that's been incorporated into that on a maintenance plan. So the increase would cover not only personnel, but also, maintenance operations and and potential future projects if we get to that point, correct?
Yeah, potential, okay.
Correct.
And in adjustment to that, it seems like to me you're doing a lot of pump outs. That's wonderful. It sounds like it costs more to do the pump outs than funds you collect for that. Is that correct?
So pump out.
In other words, the pump out fees don't cover the pump out. Personnel and.
So the way pump outs work is it's all subsidized and grant funded. There's no cost that come out for the pump outs. That we do a match, but our match is through other means. It doesn't come out of any revenue stream.
Thank you.
Correct. Yeah, so we have the Clean Vessel Act grant that the town applies for every year, and that helps fund, that's how we got the new pump out boat
Yeah.
this past year. So we pay, the town pays a portion of that as a match, but, and that's strictly for just pump out operations, so not maintenance operations or maritime operations, anything like that, just strictly pump out operations.
I just, seems like to me that we haven't figured out where the extra money is going for the big increase in the.
So we did run all the numbers based upon us at maximum capacity year-round at the standard, or at the existing rate. And it did not cover what we were trying to do, the personnel that we wanted to get, and to meet the customer service we were trying to meet. So that's why we factored in what we did factor in and where we wanted to be, not only to come to, for future projects, but to improve what we do already have. There's always room for improvement in every aspect of what we're doing. We are still renting out a unit and things like that, and I would like to be.
Okay, so some of this is projecting better office space.
Better everything.
Well, better office space.
Yes, included. Yes.
So the priority with the funds would be to, help with current operations and staffing, and then if there's excess, and that's something we can look into amenities. Sure.
Why it was be that large.
Sure.
Everybody can
So
come. to their own
personnel,
conclusions.
maintenance operations, equipment, equipment maintenance, that sort of thing, priority first.
As opposed to what we're doing now.
Correct.
I have a question. If you're saying the weekly rate is not utilized because they're looking at daily or monthly, are you letting patrons change over to, if they paid so many days, they can pay a monthly rate if they stay longer?
Yeah, of course.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay, because for a while we weren't, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that. I know it's always been a customer first type operation. So, I mean, if
So like if they're paying a daily rate and they get to a certain point and they know they're going to stay another week.
the system automatically does that. So basically.
Oh, it does
yeah,
now, with
so-
DACWA.
yeah,
DACWA does that.
DACWA does that
Okay.
through the edits of your arrival and departure.
Okay.
And so that's why it just prorates or it charges to whatever.
Because I think before DACWA, that wasn't necessarily happening, perhaps.
That was an issue we were having with Matanzas as well, because we were more customer service driven than what we were before.
Because I think it makes a difference with that, if it's able to switch over. I don't know what do you guys think about dropping the weekly rate then?
Just note that if we do drop it, we'll have to amend the harbor management.
Understood, yeah.
I think, and I don't.
I mean,
I don't-
what I'll say then is the discount for the weekly
yeah,
rate. I'll
drop-
just put it that way.
Drop the discount. I don't know much have as good a feel for it as everybody else, but it seems to me that a daily rate and a monthly rate is sufficient to, I guess, reward people for the less effort it takes. If somebody's gonna stay a month, then there's less paperwork or whatever, but I think a daily rate and a monthly rate's enough personally, but I have to admit, I haven't rented a ball or anything like that, so I don't know exactly, but it just seems as a practical matter, that's enough definition of a discounted rate as a monthly rate.
I'm thinking that the outcome is to encourage people to stay at our high the full week or whatever at our high occupancy, that doesn't seem to be a real needed incentive for people to stay. That would be my thought.
Sam?
I think we should have a weekly rate at a discount, just to encourage people that are staying 3 or 4 days to stay the full week.
Bob?
Well, normally when you see a weekly rate, for instance, I have a couple of senior adult RV parks, you know, that I manage, and we offer daily, weekly, monthly. And, you know, the weekly does offer them a discount, and it's exactly what you said. They get one night free, and that's how we do it. So you see that pretty common across the board in, you know, most rental type situations. But, you know, if the town's not going to offer the discount, then, you know, and I understand we don't want to drop the weekly rate, because then we got to go back and amend all this other crazy paperwork, and that's not worth it for anybody. You know, I guess I could go either way, but I will say the standard is to offer some sort of a discount for a weekly. Whether anybody uses it or not, I don't know. And we have the same situation where the majority of our people obviously are staying a month anyway, so the weeklies are few and far between that actually take it, but, you know, it is offered.
I'd like to see it stay offered too, and I guess it's immaterial if people use it or not as well. I mean, it's still there.
What about the people that stay 2 or 3 weeks? You know, it would be nice to have a discount, you know, that don't stay the full month. It would be nice to have the discount for somebody that stays 1, 2, or 3 weeks, you know, and not have to pay the daily rate, and encourage the people to stay longer.
Should we, if we keep the weekly rate, should we define what the discount is? Like you get 1 day free, you get, like you pay for 6 days, and you can stay 7, and on the monthly rate, should we define, you pay for a month, you get 3 days free or whatever?
Problem with a month is there's a different amount of days in every month.
Yeah, that's a problem, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, it might, I don't know if we would actually discuss what the actual discount is.
Well, essentially what we recommended, because we have the rate schedule now, and we suggested last time just a 25% rate across the board.
Correct.
And essentially, staff was higher than that for the monthly and for the daily than we recommended.
I believe staff requested, as I recall, a 33% increase
Right. It was close to that.
or something.
And then dropping the weekly. So we didn't really specify you would get 1 night free or
Yes.
anything. I think it's a little bit more than that. And the monthly is maybe a week. I don't know. I don't know how it is. But the point with it was it was in line with what other people are charging.
Right.
So does anybody want to make a motion about?
Maybe just what we talked about last meeting is just we recommended increasing the rates 25% across the board
Keeping the discounted.
and
weekly
keeping the, whatever they are now, they just increased 25%.
Any second or
Yeah, Sam, I second Doug's motion.
any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So essentially, we'd like to see the weekly rate kept at a discounted. Okay. Is there any other questions for staff or comments or any other things generated from our discussions from the staff before we move on? Okay, we have an appeal from Helen Gray. One moment. I believe if we're in agreement, we'll have the appeal from Helen. She can, I'm sorry, Ms. Gray can do a presentation. Harbor Master Gilchrist can do his presentation. We'll have time for all of you to ask questions of both, and then we'll have time for us to talk about our recommendations. Ms. Gray, I hope you all got the packet from her. Harbor Master Gilchrist, did we get something from you?
Yeah, I mean, I just would like to know what, what the
We-
appeal is and basically just comment on what needs to be commented.
Okay, because I think we requested a packet, but we didn't get anything from you. Okay. Is that acceptable procedure to everybody? Ms. Gray?
Good morning. For the record, Helen Gray. I am a tenant in the town mooring field. I appreciate your time and consideration for this appeal. I understand it's your first one, so hopefully I didn't throw a wrench into the works for you. I tried to
I really apologize for interrupting, and I'm not sure the answer to this question, but it's a question I think you might want to consider. Since this is sort of in the nature of a legal appeal, do you want to swear people in?
I guess.
I haven't done one of these, but it would seem to me that it might be a good idea. We do that in town council meetings when people come in for an appeal.
Okay.
We swear them in.
Appreciate knowing that. What do we do?
Well, the people that are going to testify, I could do it for you if you want me to.
That would be great.
Austin and Helen, is anybody else planning on testifying? Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth? So help you God, or if you don't believe in God, whatever.
I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Appreciate that. 'Cause this
I
is
used
our
to swear
first.
people in back when everybody said God, so it just came out of my mouth that way.
And like the Vice Mayor said, this is our first appeal, so we've been working with the clerk's office and our town attorney and everybody on how to do this, but it's a learning curve for all of us, so.
Well, it's good to have it. There's going to be a first all the time, and we appreciate any help from, thank you.
And is
Appreciate it.
this considered a quasi-judicial? What is this considered?
I don't know that this quite rises to the level of quasi-judicial,
Yeah.
but when you use words like hearing and appeal,
Right.
it's good to follow some of those things. I can't believe it would hurt, so,
Better safe
The
than
truth is good.
yeah.
And from what I understand, we can make a recommendation, again.
Without a ruling.
Right, that's my understanding, because the board
I have,
can't make decisions.
Right.
We can only
We-
recommend to the.
we have to write a synopsis and a recommendation that goes to the town council.
Right.
So that is our function in this. But anyway, please,
Fair enough. I tried to detail the reasons behind my request for this appeal in the letter and the backup materials that were submitted to the town. Specifically, it's having the liveaboard status revoked and ball assignment from the west mooring field into the east mooring field. I don't know when those determinations were made. I can only tell you that I didn't learn of this until August 8th, and one of the exhibits does show a number of vessels that got liveaboard status well after September of 2020 when I did, and some as much as a year. I really don't want to get into the weeds on the written material because I think that it was pretty detailed, but if you'd like to discuss any of those items further, or if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
why don't you give a synopsis of this, just to make sure everybody kind of understands the timeline?
Okay.
Just the synopsis of it, not maybe reading the whole thing.
Okay, fair enough,
Because it's into the public record,
yes, I did submit it to the clerk as well.
but we have this, so if anybody's watching, we have a synopsis of your appeal.
Yeah. One of the issues is the definition of liveaboard, which is 5 consecutive days or 10 non-consecutive days aboard a vessel. And that was granted to me in September of 2020. Right now, the vessel is not in the mooring field, because I mentioned last time it was struck by lightning. It's still in the yard. We're lurching towards completion on that. As you can well imagine, there's a lot of supply chain issues that are affecting getting some of the equipment and stuff that is needed. I also did receive a copy of a list of liveaboards, and as I mentioned, just about half of them were granted liveaboard status that I can tell off of the dockal reports. It was challenging to get all of this information to mesh pretty well. And then, another reason that was cited by the harbor master is an insufficient number of pump outs, and I dispute that. I think that there is some uncertainty within the various signage and rules and plans and everything else. Because I was told in August that it was weekly. Well, I haven't seen anything anywhere that says weekly. Do get pumped out once a month. And by way of example only, when I sailed down to the dry Tortugas, I was well in excess of the 8 miles offshore, and typically I do open my holding tanks when I'm offshore for that. I also had a discussion of, of waste management on vessels, and I really think that that's the important thing, is properly managing your waste. And on my boat, we have a rule, if you didn't eat it or drink it, it doesn't go in the head, so we're not discharging a lot of excess material that you wouldn't otherwise have if you did flush toilet paper and things like that down. I did get pump out logs. I think on the Aqua one, you'll see that my pump outs were every 30 days. Very few, it appeared that very few vessels schedule their pump outs through Aqua. They probably call the office, or I've seen people flag down the pump out boat as they are traversing the field. With respect to the reassignment to the east field, that water in the back gets pretty skinny. I was assigned back there once before, and my vessel draws over 6 feet. And some of the charts that are available, like for fishing and stuff, do show shoaling in that area. And when I was going back there, it was at a +1 tide. The water was getting really skinny, and I actually was concerned about running aground while going back there. It's, motorboat, other pleasure craft, vessels that don't draw as much, certainly that isn't as big of a concern. To use the east mooring field, it's like there's a very small dinghy dock right at the end of Gulf Beach Road. And it is poorly lit. There's no potable water. There are trash containers, but there's no dumpster. Not convenient to get ice, because when I come out and go sailing, I will typically pick up a couple bags of ice at the mooring field office. And we don't have landside showers or convenient landside showers or toilet facilities. And the final thing about being in the east mooring field is the parking situation. Right now, the parking pass for the town allows me to park under the Matanzas Bridge only. And frankly, I wouldn't leave my car overnight at the secondary dinghy dock that's just east of Town Hall here. So it's there's no pedestrian traffic, no eyes on the street to create a better enhanced sense of safety there. So that kind of hits the highlights. So if you want to discuss any of these items.
Yeah. Could you just summarize the result you're looking for as far as liveaboard status and location?
Both of those things are being appealed today. I would like to have my liveaboard status reinstated, and I would also like to be assigned somewhere in the west mooring field.
And when you said about the depth, was it the depth of the perimeter or the getting in and out of or both of them?
It was in the channel approaching the east mooring field. Yeah, there's a small area, and I don't know that anybody dredges that since it's not a federal channel. When you have the commerce of the shrimp fleet and the amount of traffic between the bridge and into the east field, that's a pretty heavily used area, and I think it's maintained better.
I know I have some questions, and we all do probably, but before we do that, let's hear from Harbor Master Gilchrist, and then we can ask questions maybe of both of them.
Okay, so basically, I'll just go over our standard procedures and how we operate. We're setting the field up for season at this time. Since the last 2 months, we've been going through and relocating vessels and getting the field set up for operations. I know I've voiced how we are operating with the field thus far. I'm trying to get more transient people towards the front of the field, liveaboards towards the middle of the field, and I'm trying to get wet storage vessels towards the back of the field. Wet storage vessels, we typically put in the back because nobody does pump out on them. With the liveaboards that we do have in the field, we do require weekly pump outs, which is posted in every accessible area that the public can access. We have a note stating the pump out procedures. Odd numbers are starting on Monday. Even numbers are on Wednesday, and all requests come in on Friday. I know that there was a picture on the exhibit that was presented, but I don't know where that came from. If you go in the office today or any of our facilities, you will find wording that says the pump out procedures. Since this relocation has taken place, we have relocated ball 4 to ball 49, ball 6 to ball 44, ball 10 to ball 64, ball 13 to ball 55, ball 51 to ball 65, ball 45 to ball 68, ball 21 to ball 58, ball 34 to ball 61, ball 38 to ball 52, ball 12 to ball 14, ball 44 to ball 63, ball 2 to ball 25, and ball 23 to 53 with one objection and all of that. That was the objection that we were seeing today. Other than that, we've moved forward, ball 34 to ball 44, ball 36 to ball 57, ball 16 to ball 51, ball 23 to ball 14, and ball 68 to ball 60. And that's all in the characteristics of the boaters and how it best flows into the operations of what we're doing. This boat in question has not pumped out within the time required of live aboards that is stated by the FWC. There's a clear formula stated on the FWC website of how much is produced by human waste of people who live aboard, and this boat does not meet that criteria. All of our boat live aboards either have documentation of some kind of composting or some kind of sanitational device that is Coast Guard approved, that we do monitor and that we do inspect. Now, some of those vessels are in the front of the field due to they do stay on their boats and are considered live aboard because they do fall in the 5 days consecutive with the 10 days weekly. Within a number of investigations asking people in the field, I have verified people stating that this vessel is not occupied more than 2 weekends out of a month maximum, all right? And staff and everybody can verify the occupation on this boat. We don't monitor who's there, whatever. We just monitor the waste that we're pulling out of that boat because of that's how much a human should be processing within a week's time. That doesn't meet the criteria here. And furthermore, this hinders us for our entire operation, and it costs the town money when we try to operate with wet storage boats in the east field. It causes the pump out boat to go to the backfield to commence pump outs, and it costs more time and money to operate the pump out boat if we have boats in the front field that aren't pumping out. So that's why we're going by the pump outs and what we're doing and rearranging these boats. As far as the services we provide is the services we provide. Opinions and things like that are taken into consideration, but at the end of the day, we do not have any police reports. We do not have any reports regarding that dinghy dock and the safety of that dinghy dock. So based on that is an opinionated. Other than that, we do not have any reports of groundings, running aground, or any of that in the backfield with vessels larger than the vessel in question. Other than that, this boat and the captain of this boat does not live on this boat, all right? I'm trying to get people who do utilize this field as liveaboards to be more comfortable. When we start specializing and people declaring what they are, other than the field determining the classification of boats, it costs us time and money. Right now, we're just trying to run the field the most economical way possible, and having one boat in there hinders us by having 2 boats that we've got to go maintain and work around. So it's just, that was the whole operation here. And this starts back when this originally started of September. I was in objection in September 20th when this first originated. All of the emails conspired came from the previous Public Works Director and not the Harbor Master. So all of the decisions that were not made by the Harbor Master. All of those emails were from the Public Works Director and not the Harbor Master. So furthermore, that was my direction from my boss. Now I have different directions into operating the field, how it needs to operate, and that's what I'm doing now.
Doug, do you have some questions?
Yeah, I have a question for the petitioner. In a very simple way, you seem to have an objection to weekly pump outs. Is that correct, or?
If that's what it requires, I can certainly do it, even when it's not necessary, but, you know, Exhibit C This is on the bulletin board at the main dinghy dock.
But why don't you don't need weekly pump outs because you don't actually live aboard, is that correct?
I meet the live aboard criteria that are stated in the permit. Well, that's hearsay.
The harbor master disagrees with,
Well, that's hearsay, you know, I don't know
well, he
that,
is a harbor master.
okay, that's fair enough. You know, then your signage, in Exhibit C, it says every 30 days. And this is posted right at the end of the dinghy dock that is just east of Town Hall. You know, and further, there's no definition anywhere that I could find of what constitutes wet storage. Very few people take their vessels out, except for when they're coming and going and they're truly transients. You know, I take my vessel out when it's not struck by lightning, you know, with some regularity. And I don't, all those vessels that were reassigned from the west field to the east field, it's not the length of the vessel that matters, it's the draw of the vessel that matters. And so of all of those boats, I mean, I don't know of any of them, one way or the other, to be honest, you know, that draw 6 feet 4 inches like mine does.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like forgive me, but your main concern is the depth, and the reassignment is in an area that you're concerned about running aground. Is that correct?
Well, that's part of it.
I mean, the amenities are another thing, but the real, it would seem to me the real concern is running aground.
That's part of it. I think it's a broader thing. It's like, I'm gonna be charged full freight to occupy the east field, and I don't have access to many, if any, of the shoreside, the landside facilities. And I've been paying full freight for a number of years.
What about the other people in the wet storage? They pay full freight too, don't they?
Correct.
No more questions for me.
Ted, do you have some questions?
Not at this time.
Sam?
No, I'll wait.
Okay. Bob?
Well, I guess my question as far as the live aboard part, so what you're saying is you are on the boat, living on it?
I'm on the boat 5 consecutive days or 10 non-consecutive days, which is the definition of live aboard in the town's permit. It's not the statutory, per Florida state statute, it's not my primary domicile. And I've said that before, but I do meet the stated definition of live aboard.
What are your plans in the future? Do you plan to occupy it more than 5 days, consecutive days, or just continue doing what you believe you're doing now to meet the requirement?
Well, right now I'm waiting for the co-owner of the boat to retire. So that's gonna mean more time on the vessel, so, and I've been retired for a couple of years, so. So I've been primarily in charge of getting the monthly pump outs, of maintaining that vessel. And, you know, and frankly, you know, to take it out on a weekend, and it's like, I don't even know, honestly, from a reasonable use standpoint, I would even accomplish that. Because in the summer, a water taxi does not run. So I would have to launch at the end of Gulf Beach Road, you know, can't get ice, you know, it's like, and it's a much further trek. In addition to running aground, I shouldn't be limited to when I can utilize that vessel based on the tide. And right now, in the west mooring field, that is not the case.
Okay. No further questions.
Sam, did you kind of acted, okay. I have questions for both of you, I guess. And I'm just going to summarize what's in here as to the timeline that I understand happened, that you were struck by lightning in July. And the harbor master was aware of that,
Yes.
correct? And your boat was not livable? You weren't able to be on it because there's no electrics?
Well, the bilge pump worked, but that was about it, and I was thankful for that.
Okay. We've been struck by lightning before, so I'm sympathetic. And you had it hauled out on the 8th of August. And you were told at that time your live aboard status was being taken away and you were being reassigned when you came back. Is that correct?
On August, that would be.
And that was verbally by Harbor Master Gilchrist?
That is correct, and then subsequent to that conversation, I did receive notification of the ball reassignment through DACWA,
Right.
but nothing prior to that.
And you wrote an email to him, but before that, you had had no warning or anything about that you weren't on the boat enough or that you needed to be pumped out more often. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Is that correct, Harbor Master?
That is not correct. What has happened, what conspired with that situation there? Like I said, we were under for the last 2 months under review and reassigning it. The lightning strike and the vote being non-movable had no consideration on the liveaboard situation or our effect of appealing it or what we were doing. We were going through and assessing all boats and how we were going to utilize the field, and hers was one of the boats that that wasn't showing up on the pump out list, and we were trying to get all the boats pumping out into one consolidated area, so the pump out boat, which I might add, we've taken an hour and a half off of our pump out schedule since all of this motion has happened, but we have gone through and we were in the process of moving. Now, as far as the facts of her coming in, and the timeline is false as well. We do have timestamp messages of when we did send DACWA was at 7:57 a.m. on August 8th on August 8th of 2022, we have a timestamp video of the time Helen Gray came into the office at 10:01 a.m. on that morning when she was verbally notified. It was just a coincidence that it was the same day, but the timeline is wrong. She was notified prior to coming into the office, though she didn't check the message was sent prior to her coming in there, stating that we are under reassignments at this time. You have been relocated to Ball 53. Please start making arrangements to get your vessel relocated and let us know if you need any help. Thank you for staying at the town of Fort Myers Beach mooring field.
Okay, but what I'm asking is, part of what you're saying, why she couldn't be in the area was she wasn't pumping out enough. What I'm saying is before August 8th, was she notified of that so that she could rectify that? And I guess my other question with that is, you said there's a pump out scheduled in the office. Does it specifically say that the liveaboard vessels have to be pumped out once a week?
Yes, that's what it states. It states that the odds are on Monday,
But
Wednesdays.
But that's not saying the liveaboards have to be pumped out once a week. I understand the schedule.
Well, it says liveaboards it says occupants of the field. If you're in the field, liveaboard or not, if you're in the field on that day, you're required to get pumped out.
Okay, so wet storage boats have to too? They're an occupant of the field.
But there's no occupant on the boat, and if there's no occupant on the boat, we can't pump it out because
I understand that, but it doesn't say liveaboards.
it says occupants of the field.
Okay.
You're talking about boat occupant, I'm talking about people occupant.
But I'm trying to get to the fact that specifically, you're saying liveaboards have to be pumped out once a week, but I don't see anywhere where it says that.
Everybody in the field is required to pump out, liveaboard or not.
Even wet storage.
Even if you're considered wet storage and you're on the boat at the time when we come by, we're pumping you out.
So if a wet storage boat doesn't get pumped out once a week, they can't stay in the field.
That's not correct. That's considered wet storage.
I'm just trying to figure out, because I don't see anywhere where it says liveaboard. I'm just trying to figure out because,
I'm missing the point, apparently.
well, according to our harbor management plan, if she wasn't being pumped out enough, she needs to be given a warning that she's not. And was she?
Okay.
Before August 8th?
All right, I see what you're getting at. So basically what we try to do is maintain the liveaboards upon proof of them being in the field, okay? The only way we verify proof of being in the field is through pump outs. So that's why the pump out comes up when we start questioning if you're living on your boat or not. Because like I stated before, a human produces so much in a week's time that needs to get pumped out versus their tank. That's how I think that what we're getting at here is she wasn't meeting the criteria for the proof of her to be a liveaboard, okay? That's why she was reassigned to the back field at that time. Per the harbor management plan, it states At any time, we can make adjustments and agreements to the lease, okay? And we did notify her, and I know that it was a coincidence, she came in the day we notified her, but it didn't give a date, it didn't give any deadline. It said, please start making arrangements to start relocating to Ball 53. With that, if you wanted to add 30 days onto that, I could have gave it a 30-day deadline or whatever was required, but at that time, it was within her discretion of when she wanted to move the boat. But like I said, it was a coincidence that we verbally told her that morning, but we also wrote her that morning as well that she needs to start making arrangements to do this.
I'm not trying to get information about moving the boat at this moment. What I'm trying to get information about is you're taking away her liveaboard status, and I'm reading your email here that says, what we recognize as defined in our state land lease, and you are not receiving weekly pump outs. In our harbor management plan, she should be notified and have a way to rectify this. And what I'm understanding is that she was notified on August 8th it was being taken away without a way to rectify it.
I'm not seeing where the rectification,
Page 6, number 3, rules and regulations, it says, upon observation of any noncompliance with the provisions of the plans or permits, the harbor master will give a written or verbal caution notice informing them. A second infraction will result in a written warning notice to the renter, et cetera.
I'm not pertaining that to our liveaboards or our liveaboard staff.
But that's an infraction. You're taking away something that she has. She should have a way to rectify it, is my point. She was just told it was gone, and there's no way to rectify it, based on pump out, essentially. And she was never told, from what I can understand, that she needed to do a weekly one. I realize the occupants and all of that stuff, but I'm just trying to get to the point that I'm not talking about the relocation of the vessel, but I'm getting to the liveaboard status.
Well, like I
vessel.
backed up before, like I said, the liveaboard status, I don't think I have a record of the harbor master actually granting liveaboard status. So, I mean, that's where I'm kind of conflicted with this whole thing.
Okay. Well, and I'm concerned about keeping track if you're saying she's not on the vessel enough, and I think that's a little bit he said, she said, knowledge of the field. I'm not sure we can really take that. Now, Ms. Gray, you're saying you do not live full-time on the boat,
That is correct.
and you have a residence elsewhere?
That is correct.
Okay. I know we've got a lot of discussions, I think, with the plans and different kinds of things, but I'm going to stop right here for now and give it up to other people. They may have some questions. I have a couple of other things I'd like to bring up, but I'm going to stop for right now.
I have a couple questions. For Austin first. She had liveaboard status as one of the 10 people
At one time,
At one point.
I was instructed to put her on the list, yes.
right. So, and right now, since she's been removed from the list, she was replaced by the next available, by someone, are there
correct.
10, so that list is full, the liveaboard list is full?
That's correct.
Is there a waiting list for others to get on
Yes,
liveaboard?
yes.
How many people are on that waiting list?
I have 3 at the time.
Okay, so you took the next one, when she was removed from the liveaboard,
Yeah.
you took the next one on there. I had something, I lost my train of thought there real quick.
Bob, do you have anything else?
Well, this, I guess, would be more of a general question to, not only for this case, but maybe something in the future. How do the other mooring fields do this monitoring? Is that by the pump outs, or, I mean, how do other mooring fields that have similar, you know,
A lot of the the pump outs is one of them, but it's the rules within themselves, so how they confine the mooring field that dictates this problem. At a lot of the mooring fields, you're not even allowed to leave your boat. So, I mean, it seems to be a unique issue that we're having here. I'm not too sure, I haven't looked into it, but I mean, the mooring fields that I've spoken to there's no question about it. If this is what needs to get done, this is what needs to get done. I'm sure there's appeal process, but at the end of the day, this is for the benefit of the town.
well, I do understand that as far as from the management side of how you're sort of corralling the different vessels into the categories to make the operation run smoother, and I understand that part, but, okay, yeah, I was just curious how maybe other mooring fields monitored that situation.
Ted, you have something?
I've got a little more. Aside from the liveaboard status, is there, this is for Austin, is there availability to move her to a more satisfactory location, both depth-wise and more westerly?
As far as the concerns on depth, we have moved vessels larger than hers with deeper cuts to those areas. I know that there are shallow areas towards the back of that field, which we do monitor. If you go anywhere out of the mooring field in the back towards the channel, you start running into depths areas. We took that into consideration, and the system that we put her on is actually on the channel, is in the deepest part of the mooring field back there, and it's closest to the access to the dock. I realize, the captain prefers using a inflatable kayak to commute to her vessel, and all of this is strictly by choice. She does have a dinghy. There are options that she can utilize to better her situation, but it's upon her way, and the way that she likes to do what she does is basically putting herself in the situation she's putting herself in. This town's here to provide a service or a service for the people, and that's basically all we're trying to do. And I can leave it at that.
So I'm assuming she's a long-standing customer in good standing with payment, et cetera. And it just seems like maybe there would be an accommodation we could make to get closer to the, closer to the big bridge, or closer to the, the main dinghy dock.
Yeah, like I said, we can take it all under consideration, but at this time, our operation doesn't support that. With the expansion and where we're going and what we're trying to do, we're still trying to utilize these boats and the characteristics of these boats with where they're at.
Ted?
I wonder, what does liveaboard status mean?
Liveaboard status gives you the exemption of 6 months in the field. At this time, we have a clause, if you are liveaboard, then you can only stay 6 months. But if you do not live aboard your boat, then you can utilize it as wet storage you're not living aboard, so it's wet storage, so it doesn't apply to the 6 months. But with the liveaboard status, you can live aboard your boat and stay the extended 6 months, stay past the 6 months.
Does that mean that if you use your boat as the mooring as a place to say, leave your boat there and visit it periodically and stay on it periodically, do you have to have liveaboard status to do that?
No, that would be considered wet storage.
So does her use, as she uses it now, does that fit as wet storage?
She does not live on the boat, so yeah, she's just storing the boat in the field.
When you say live
Okay.
on,
May I interject
Yeah.
here? Because I have the land lease, and there are 2 liveaboard sections here. And if you read the land lease, Chelsea actually granted Ms. Gray liveaboard status, and she doesn't qualify for the 10 liveaboard status. There are 2 sections here. And I was going to bring that up at a different time. But if the first page says, under number 1, use of property, this is our current land lease. It gives with liveaboards as defined in paragraph 24. And that's the paragraph that Ms. Gray is under and that she applied for. it says liveaboards is defined as a vessel in the facility inhabited by a person for any 5 consecutive days or a total of 10 days within a 30-day period, which is what you're stating. In no event shall this liveaboard status exceed 6 months with any 12-month period, nor shall any vessel constitute a legal or primary residence, which you qualify for that, correct? Because it's not your primary residence.
Correct.
Okay. Section 26 of this is special lease conditions. F under this is what we're talking about with the 10 liveaboards. This lease allows the following non-standard use: authorization to allow only 10 slips for use by liveaboard vessels, occupants to moor beyond 6 months. And that was, I was in on when this was done in 2002. Dan Hughes went to Tallahassee to get this 10 liveaboards in there because we had people that were anchored in the field. And these were for people that lived full-time on their boats. And that's what our 10 are supposed to be. Ms. Gray qualifies for, she doesn't need the special liveaboard status at this time. And Ms. O'Reilly gave it to her, but she doesn't really qualify for the 10. She can do what she's doing now without the special liveaboard status.
My concern, however, is if I'm limited to only 6 months in any 12-month period absent a liveaboard status.
If you take a liveaboard status on that boat and we start pumping out on a weekly basis and you're not on the liveaboard list, then you would only be in the field for 6 months. After the situation and what we have done with your vessel and the classification of wet storage, you can come out and utilize the field at an extended lease for as long as you like as wet storage.
Well, what I'm saying right now is you don't qualify for the 10. The
Well-
10 beyond 6 months at this point.
Well, and then that's a conflict within the land lease.
No, it's not, because it was a special exception that was granted by the state for 10. The first part is for anybody, that they can use it for 6 months or less. And it was specially, as I said, Dan Hughes, who was mayor at that time, and other people went to Tallahassee to get that special 10. Because without that, we wouldn't even have that at all.
I thought that special 10, maybe I'm wrong, was once they.
It was originally that way.
then
It was.
There were no more, right?
It was originally that way, but it doesn't state that in here, which is why it's still there. Because originally, they were supposed to go away.
Right, they were supposed to be.
But there was never any wording that way, and so the town determined that we could have 10. But you are correct.
I don't understand the 6 months. What's,
Under 6 months. That means it's over 6 months is the 10.
oh, it's the 10, but under 6 months, you can still do it.
Yes, without that special permit.
Okay.
Now, my question too to Austin is, the other liveaboards, are they, essentially, that's their home and they're living there?
That's correct.
Okay.
But we do not allow mail or any way that they can take residency up in the field or declare the field their primary residency.
But they're living there pretty
But they
much
are-
24/7.
Yeah.
And aside from the 10 that Dan Hughes got approved with the state and the DEP, that is a DEP rule as part of the submerged land lease, correct? There can't be any liveaboards more than 6 months?
Correct.
Got it.
What's defined as a liveaboard?
The 5 consecutive days or 10 days within 1 month.
And not to exceed 6 months in a year.
What do you, not to exceed 6 months? I didn't understand that.
That's the pretty standard lease. I think it goes for marinas, it goes for campgrounds, it goes for.
That's if you're a liveaboard. What if you're not a liveaboard? What can you do?
Well, their term of liveaboard, I mean, twice it says liveaboard, it says exactly the same thing. But they're just saying you can stay on your boat. It's not your primary residence, the first one.
But if you're not a liveaboard, can you stay on your boat 5 days a month?
You're just storing your vessel with us.
Yeah, but can you stay on it while you're storing it?
Yes,
Yes. As
that's
long as
what
you
that liveaboard part is.
Well, no, and not be a liveaboard.
Okay, so if you do fall under the liveaboard status where you are staying okay,
I want if you're wet status.
if you're
Wet
wet storage,
What use of your boat can you have?
you can utilize your boat as long as you do not exceed the 5 consecutive days or the 10 days within a 30-day, was it 30, within a month?
30
Yeah,
days.
30 days.
And under 6 months. It's the same. It's the same.
Under 6 months.
Staying overnight on your boat. That's like staying overnight on your boat.
So,
Not that you can't go out and sail your boat every day, you can do that, but you're not staying overnight on your boat.
so on the wet storage, let me understand this. You can do the 5, 10-day while you're wet stored, that you could stay on your boat and not be in violation.
Absolutely. You can come out on the weekends and stay on your boat.
Okay,
and that would
so it
only-
doesn't, it's just you can't live on it if you're wet storing it.
Correct.
You-
And then you would fall under the liveaboard status, and then you can only stay 6 months.
Okay.
Are there any questions, others? Helen, would you like to say something else? Ms. Gray, I'm sorry.
That's fine. I answer to I've been called a lot. It's no problem. What I'm looking for is to not get kicked out after 6 months. And I would like very much to be in the western mooring field, because I think that there's a fair amount of confusion. And until August 8th, I was never told that there was a weekly pump-out requirement. And I can certainly do that, because I live half an hour up the road if that's what they want, you know. But like you said, how can I correct something when I don't know about it? And I didn't get and Austin did call me on July 3rd, and I was so thankful for that, because he was the second person to notify me that the vessel had been struck. So, and it took a while to get the yard coordinated and insurance on board and all that other swell stuff. Because the people next to me texted and said, we don't know if it's your boat or the building on the other side of the channel that is putting out the black smoke. You know, so I went out the next morning and then that evening, and I appreciate that. It was a Sunday, it was a holiday weekend, and Austin did make the effort to contact me about that. So the two things I'm looking for is to not get kicked out after 6 months and to have a ball in the western mooring field.
Do we have availability, more westerly that would accommodate, that would still fit in with your plan?
We'll have to go in through and assess what we do have at this time.
Go ahead.
Is it possible that she can use her boat the same way she's using it now under wet storage?
The only thing that changed here was the classification. We're not changing anything anything at all.
So theoretically, she could use her boat just like she's using it now and call it wet storage.
If she starts exceeding the liveaboard, then she'll have under the 6 months. But if she's just utilizing the boat as she is now, that's perfectly. That's why it was relocated, because we did consider it wet storage.
And is there a new way? I wonder if you're going to change the way you use the boat when you get the retirement over.
Well, certainly there's going to be more time on the boat. I can't park overnight without paying the hourly fee next to Bayfront Park, or whatever that, Bay Oaks, or the one at end of where they're going to build a new fire station, east of here.
So if,
I can't park there overnight.
yep, you can park there now? I mean, what would change from your present circumstances, or what you've been doing up to this time, if, other than leaving the boat out, the status, is there anything different required by the status than the way you're using your boat?
Certainly. Instead of kayaking 4/10 of a mile from the
No,
main
I said
pier.
other than moving it. I mean,
Okay.
if it was in its old location, is there anything would change if you didn't have if you didn't have liveaboard?
My concern is getting kicked out after 6 months, which is,
Well, but that's only goes if you're a liveaboard,
okay,
I think.
a liveaboard being the 5 and the 10, or a liveaboard being 30?
Our field is always under movement. Everything is always being inspected and analyzed, and changes happening every day. The status of a lot of boats change weekly, and how those people conduct the way that they are doing weekly. And we as staff have to move with that. Depending on Miss Gray and her actions and however she wants to move forward, we are here for customer service. So whatever we can do to help facilitate that doesn't put a hindrance on this town, we try to facilitate. If she wants to come out and start staying on the boat more, we will gladly relocate the boat. That's why I wanted to bring up the vessels that we did move forward. The 5 vessels that moved up because they came in with the pretense of wet storage, but everybody's circumstance is different. They ended up living on the boat. That's why we started moving boats around, so people can utilize the field better to the way that they're utilizing their boats. So that's why I wanted to highlight all the other boats that we've relocated without issue, because a lot of those people came in with the pretense of living on the boat. But with certain circumstances, they've had to go up north or go somewhere, and they haven't come back. So with that, we've had to relocate their vessels and put them somewhere else. And it all depends on how the boat's being utilized. If the situation changes tomorrow where, we start seeing the captain on the boat more, we'll go to the captain and say, hey, we've seen you trafficking a lot more. You want us to start working on getting you up? That's the same situation that happened with ball 44 and how we moved him up to 41. He didn't come to us asking. We asked him, hey, we got some availability. We see you're utilizing the field more. Can we get you a little closer? So I appreciate it, yeah. Same situation here. We didn't see much movement going on the boat. It kind of became a hindrance in where it was at, so we relocated the vessel. And with that, we've moved up a family onto 23 so the family could utilize the field the way that they are, because they're on it 7 days a week.
So, if I may, I'd like to comment. So, I think what I see here, to kind of boil this down, is you liked ball 23. It was a convenient location. You liked it. Our harbor master, at his discretion, which he has, for various reasons, wants to move your boat to ball 53, which you don't like. You prefer ball 23. Maybe there's a ball that is 23 is not going to be available because somebody's already in it that does, in fact, live aboard their boat. But maybe there's another ball alternative to 53 that would be a compromise, as suggested, that you would be okay with. But like Austin said, it's his discretion to manage the mooring field and move boats around based on how they're being utilized. And as you said, Ms. Gray, you don't need weekly pump outs because you don't live on your boat. So, but other people, those 10 spots, which are special exemptions by the state, are for people that actually do in fact live on their boat. And they're filled now with people that do in fact live on their boat, correct? So I think I would look for a compromise if there's one available. But
Yeah, and if I could add, I was originally on ball 7. So, and I freely admit that boats move all the time, and that's when I was put back to 23. I didn't see any reference in any town document that defined wet storage. And if you're going to go by the harbor management plan, perhaps that's something that should be in there, because my vessel is more than wet storage. I go out on it routinely. So, and I don't know if the town keeps logs of, checking on vessels and determining whether or not they're in compliance with all the different permit requirements and criteria that are in the governing documents for the mooring field. So.
Well, do you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick one. So Helen, have you been paying, even though you've been hauled out for
Oh, yes.
a while here, have you been paying your monthly?
I'm paid through December.
You're paid through December. in good standing. As far as customer service, we should try to make some accommodation. She's paying for something she's not even using, and if there is something available, maybe we can get her closer to the big bridge.
Ms. Gray, when did you come into the mooring field?
It was shortly after New Year's in 2018, I believe.
Okay.
And I'll confess too, the reason I pay 6 months in advance is so I can get the $25 parking.
I got you. I understand that. I understand that.
You weren't expecting all the, everything else.
All right. Well, I'm going to kind of in conclusion for my side, and I'd like all of you guys to do the same, because we need to write a report to town council on our recommendation. But one more question, I guess, for Ms. Gray. Until the lightning strike, you were in compliance with the 5 consecutive days, 10 days a month,
That is correct.
and you weren't exceeding that.
Exceeding 5 days?
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
10 days a month?
Well,
I'm saying staying over, I'm not just saying going out and sailing your boat and going home, because that isn't what we're talking about.
I take extended trips offshore.
Right, but I mean in the mooring
In
field.
the mooring field, that is correct.
Okay. Okay, in conclusion, my conclusion is that, and I hope all of you will do the same, because we need to kind of come to, I think, a consensus, is that because of Ms. Gray's usage of the boat, it's confusing in the land lease because the boilerplate part of it gives the liveaboards of the 5 days and 10 days in a 30-day period and under 6 months. And then you have the special dispensation of the 10 that live on their boats more than 6 months a year. So there's two, it's exactly the same terminology. But the first one allows anybody without a special grant to use their boat and stay overnight on it. It doesn't matter whether you term it wet storage or what. You can live on your boat, stay overnight, come out on weekends, do that for under 6 months a year. And I believe that Ms. Gray qualifies for that and really was granted in arrear, or should not have been granted one of the 10 because of her usage of the boat at this time. I understand that she's hoping to, in the future, use it more, but when she applied for it, I don't believe she probably should have been granted one of the 10. Be that as it may, I believe that Harbor Master Gilchrist should have given her more warning rather than just telling her the day of, you don't have this anymore. According to our management plan, where you're supposed to have a warning, you're supposed to have a way to rectify that before it's taken away. I mean, I realize, it essentially says infractions, so that can be taken as a loose term, but I think she should have been given some prior warning before this was taken away. Harbor Master Gilchrist, unfortunately for Ms. Gray, has the authority to move a ball anywhere in the field that he chooses to, make the operation better. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think it's been said in here too. I don't like the policy of grouping together liveaboards and non-liveaboards, and particularly the east field not having eyes in the field. What's happening when the pump-out boat goes to one part of the field one day, they're not going out there and eyes out there. Boats sink, boats get hit by lightning, boats get broken into, and if we don't have eyes out there, I think it's a safety issue. I understand on the harbor master's side it's more efficient with the fuel for our boats. But I really feel customer service-wise and safety-wise, we really should be having the pump-out boat going to all areas of the field every time it's out. That, I've said it before and I'll continue to say it. But the way that our plan is now, the harbor master has the right to assign a boat to a ball as they choose.
Can I address the safety issue as far as the backfield and observation of the backfield? We do have drone capabilities that we do fly every day. We do not scramble a boat to check the field anymore. We use it by aerials and doing air, and if anything's a question, that's when we scramble the boat. The backfield is checked daily, but by the air.
Okay, I appreciate knowing that. That's something I didn't know. Thank you. Doug, do you have,
Well, I would just say, I think, kind of what I said before, what you just said is that Harbor Master Gilchrist has the discretion to put boats where he thinks it's in the best interest of the town and the management of the mooring field. And he made that decision, he has reasons for it. He mentioned, you know, the Water Commission and other regulations, but I don't think that this boat qualifies as a liveaboard, so I think Mr. Gilchrist's decision is the correct one.
Ted?
I'm just hoping that the regulations of liveaboard, unliveaboard, moving to the quotes wet storage or non-liveaboard, that Ms. Gray can continue to use her boat, at least in the way she uses it now, without being kicked out of the field or whatever. So it appears to me that it all comes down to where she's placed, and that just has to be worked out in the way it needs to be done. But my fear was that she's kicked out of the field because she's not a non-liveaboard. What I've heard today is that doesn't happen. So it comes down to where she's located, and I don't have enough knowledge to make any comment on that.
Sam?
As far as the liveaboard portion, I mean, that sounds marginal. I don't see any remedy for that, especially since there's already 10 places full and a waiting list, and it seems like it was marginal to begin with. However, Helen's been a good paying customer and prepaid customer, and in good standing, and been here quite a while. I think we should do whatever we can to accommodate, maybe not all the way back to 23 or back to 7, but accommodate, especially considering the draft of the boat and her effort and request, maybe to get her more westerly to everyone's satisfaction.
Bob?
Yeah, well, I think I agree with basically what everyone said, you know, especially with what Doug said. And, you know, I just don't think it probably should have ever been one of the 10 to begin with. That wasn't the reason what we got that exception for. It was for, you know, truly people that was their home. And that's why the state gave it, and that's why Dan Hughes went to Tallahassee to get that agreed to, not so that future people could, you know, have their boat and go and come as they please on it. So, you know, my thought is, as far as the being one of the 10, I don't think you really qualified for that. But then I agree with what Sam said. You know, you're a good tenant, you pay your bills. Don't quite understand the pump out thing, why that was a little bit of a mix up, but I think it's clear, and you know that now, and I do think should try to figure something out that would be some sort of a compromise that would satisfy both and still not mess up the operation of the field for one person, for the management of it, for his operations.
Kathy, could I chime in here?
Yes.
Not as, I don't want to have any input on the decision, but when you make a report to town council, this is a hearing about an action of a town employee. And I'm hearing a lot of talk about compromise, and that's all lovely. But what your job is to say, did Austin Gilchrist follow the rules? And if he did, then his actions were legitimate. And after that point, I don't think you really have the ability to say we should do X, Y, and Z. if you find that he didn't follow the rules, then you can make suggestions about compromises and solutions. But if you find he followed the rules, then you pretty much, I think, have to stop there. If you say anything further, you need to say this is a suggestion, but, and of course, everything you say is a recommendation anyway. But I just wanted, so that what you send to the council is clear, if you're following my drift here. It's nice that everybody wants to be nice, but your job here today is to be making a ruling on whether Austin followed the rules.
Okay, well, that would have been real easy. We could have been out of here an hour ago. I'll say it, Austin followed the rules. He did exactly what he's required to do, and that's the bottom line. So that's the
Well-
recommendation, I'm
Provide
done.
notification.
Well, yes, exactly. My question, okay, we have two issues here, actually, that Ms. Gray is wanting, reassignment of the ball and the taking away of the liveaboard status. And he has the right to reassign the ball. My question, so he followed the rules with that. But what about revoking the liveaboard status? Did he do that in the correct way?
Well, I'm Bob Beasley, for the record, if his belief and what he has seen shows that that particular requirement was violated, then, you know, it is. I don't like the way maybe we monitor it. That's why I was asking
Right.
about other mooring fields. How do they do this? And, you know, because it's not 100% accurate, is what I'm saying.
Right.
It's probably accurate, but, you know, how accurate is that? So,
My other question, did he follow procedure? Should he have given her notification prior to revoking it so she could remedy that, as according to our harbor plan?
well, I guess, you know, this being a new situation,
Because was that something she could remedy? For example, the pump outs once a week.
Well, I think the pump outs are just an indicator. I mean, but the fact is, she really doesn't live aboard it, and I think Austin did make the correct decision.
But can you revoke it once it's been granted?
Without notification.
I guess that'll be up to the council to decide, because we can't, you know, I mean, we can
Do you
only
feel,
advise them.
do you feel he should have given her prior notification before just taking it away?
Kathy, I don't have the wording in front of me. As I remember when you said it, I think you used the word infraction. And infraction to me legally means that someone broke a rule. It's not a status. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yes,
I don't know, and I'm not making a decision here, just pointing out that infraction may have a meaning.
Well, supposedly the pump outs was an infraction.
How I
No,
took,
The pump out was an indication of a status. He's using it as an indication of a status. She wasn't violating a rule by not having the pump out, because people don't have to have pump outs if they're in wet storage. So she's not violating a rule. It's just an indicator of status. Usually when warnings come about in a legal situation, it's because someone has broken a rule. Do you understand what I'm
I
saying?
do.
And I don't have the language in front of me, so I'm basing this on my memory. But if the word infraction was used, it might have a meaning.
Right.
so that's how I did take this, as just a status change, and that's why I went under the harbor management plan, under the harbor master's authorization is required or not required, and it goes under a lengthy number of things that I was able to do under the harbor management plan, and one of those is, you know, go into lease agreements and change any, whatever it may be, if you want to read that under.
What statement, what page is that?
It's page 5, number 4.
I don't have a number, oh, there we go. Well, that has to do just with moving the vessel.
It does state under the other state and everything laws as well. But basically, I just took it as the lease agreement and changing the lease agreement from liveaboard to wet storage. And like I tried to say, I didn't see it as an infraction at all. It was just changing it from liveaboard to wet storage.
Noting that I don't believe wet storage is defined anywhere in the harbor management plan.
What is the category other than wet storage? I mean, we use the word wet storage.
Well,
but what is the category?
wet storage means you don't live on a boat. I mean,
Liveaboard and non-liveaboard.
I mean,
There you
it's,
go.
it's essentially that.
So it's a non-liveaboard, that's the.
Basically, I break it up into 3 categories. I have transient, liveaboard, and wet storage. And
But wet storage means non-liveaboard.
non-liveaboards and just storing the vessel. And that under,
Which doesn't mean you can't stay on it overnight and stuff like that, but it just means that you're not living full-time on it.
Does transient have a time assigned? a
it's
time?
stated in the harbor management plan.
Yeah, so the way I see it is like transients are visitors or people that are staying and they're on their boat because that's what they have to live on. Then you have people that in fact live on their boat and it's more or less permanent up to a point. And then you have people that use their boats on weekends and so forth, and it's there for convenience, and it's, we call that wet storage, but it's really sort of general use or something in my mind.
Yeah, general use is probably better, but, yeah, they don't live full-time on the boat. So, our conclusion here, since, I guess I would state for the record, it appears that, and correct me if I'm wrong, committee, that we're saying that Harbor Master Gilchrist was within his rights for taking away the liveaboard status and for reassigning the boat according to our harbor plan, as we feel that her granting of the living aboard that was done of the 10 is, she doesn't qualify for that. I guess I would state for the record that I wish that she had had more notification from the harbor master that this was going to happen rather than just when she took her boat, I mean, as far as the revocation of the liveaboard status. But it appears, am I correct, that the committee feels that he's within his right to do both of the things?
Yeah.
Bob,
Yes.
Sam?
I'd go that Austin's actions were justified. However, this circumstance brings up a reason to review future procedures.
I think Austin did the appropriate things. It's unfortunate maybe that he didn't, or it doesn't seem the notification went out, but he followed the rules as far as I'm concerned.
Doug?
Yeah, I think Austin did the right thing, and I think changing status of a boat may not, I think you're supposed to notify people when they break a rule. All Austin did was change the status, and he's allowed to do that. He's allowed to change the mooring ball. So I think he was within following the harbor plan, personally.
I will write a report to that and to the town council. When is your next meeting? It's budget tomorrow?
Yeah, you're not going to get on the agenda for tomorrow. October 3rd, I think,
October
is our
3rd,
next
correct.
meeting, so it's coming up pretty fast.
Okay.
I would guess that if you got it to Amy by the same date that she's asked for the appointments to be in, that gives you an indication of
Friday
her due date for putting the notebook together for the next meeting, so.
Okay. I will, October 3rd is what, Monday?
About 2 weeks, right?
2 weeks. Thank you,
Okay.
Ms. Gray.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Well, before we close this out, can we discuss the other portion of it?
What?
With possibly, while everyone's here, of possibly accommodating her? Or did we already kind of cover that with Austin? About checking into possibly accommodating improved situation, more westerly?
It's not our business.
Okay, well,
I think we've discussed it, and
Okay.
I think people's views have been made known.
okay.
But,
Just so I'm clear,
think-
I can stay longer than 6 months.
no. Oh, your boat can be there longer than 6 months.
And I cannot be on board more than 5 consecutive days.
That's correct.
or 10 non-
It doesn't have anything to do with your boat being there. But what you've been doing, you can continue to do without the liveaboard status.
But I can't stay on it more than 5 consecutive days.
Essentially, 5 consecutive day, if that's what you've been doing, you said,
No, or 10 non-consecutive days, which is what I've been doing.
yes.
So if I go out on a Friday and come back on a Tuesday or a Monday, a couple weekends a month or whatever.
Yeah, yes,
But, I mean, but that's what I've been doing.
yes. Yes, you are allowed to do, you were allowed to do that without the 10 liveaboard.
Okay. But once I'm on it more,
But once,
once I'm on the vessel more than the 5 and 10,
and essentially what it's, which is, I think is weird because it says not more than 6 months. Well, that doesn't add up to 6 months. 6 months would say it's 15 days a month.
I'm just going by what's in the plan there.
Yep.
Basically, like I said,
I-
I'm here
yeah.
for customer service. If Miss Gray's boating, her boating characteristics change, we'll change whatever needs to be changed with that. But as of right now, we're just trying to get the field set up for season. If she wants to come stay on the boat for season, let's discuss that, and whatever we can accommodate, we can accommodate.
Well, it essentially says 6 months, under 6 months. And I don't know how you add up 10 days a month, and that's 6 months time. I don't know how that adds up.
I think it's the amount of time that the boat's on a mooring ball versus,
No, it has to do with you being on it.
If Miss Gray came out every weekend, it would be 8 days in a month.
Yeah.
But if she came out for 3 days in a week or whatever, it added up to a consecutive 10 day, or I'm sorry, not consecutive, 10 days within that month, she stayed on that boat. I think that's what you're looking for. But if she stayed on that boat for 5 days consecutively, that would be constitute as liveaboard.
But every month it
Well,
might be different.
I-
One month
yeah.
you might
I'm
stay on.
going to jump in. When you're holding a hearing, you need to finish the hearing, and then if you're going to talk about making procedural changes to other things, if you do that separately so that it doesn't get messed up, like,
She's trying to clarify that she can still do what she's doing.
understood, but I'm hearing a lot of other discussion going on that's outside of the hearing, if you follow my drift.
I thought we were done with the hearing.
Right,
We were
so-
just getting a clarification. She asked a question as she was leaving.
And from now on, she's under the direction of Austin. Austin should be the person answering her questions.
fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
All right. Gotta find my thing here. All right.
Appreciate it.
I will tell you that I'm not sure I want to work on the harbor management plan today, after all that. But I will say one general thing.
Kind of did in a way.
Yeah, I will say one general thing, that we still need to get the capital letters in the table of contents and the document, because we got the Roman numerals in there, but we still need the capital letters in there, which I added in. And one other thing that's just a general thing, under number 6, communications, both in the table of contents and the regular document, I went back to my old document because something wasn't adding up here. A whole heading got left off. Letter A, communication procedures with renters, got left off under communication and also in the document.
You're saying based off of the current one?
Yes.
Perfect, I'll take a look at it.
It just got completely left off, and I didn't notice it until I started adding all the letters in, and then it was just gone. So,
I noticed that with the insurance one too, so we added the insurance requirement back in.
yes, because that was left off too, so.
That might have just been, I think, transferring from the,
Yeah, well, unfortunately, sometimes with cut and paste stuff, that kind of stuff happens, I realize that.
we'll take a look at it though, no problem.
Okay, so those were the just two general things, other than we just got to go through it. Now everybody has their copies, right? So I've got to get rid of some of my inter copies, you know, that we've been working on and stuff.
So you just wanted numbers like on the subheadings then, beneath the Roman
The
numeral?
letters.
Oh, the letters, okay.
The numbers are all there. In the documents, I think. Yeah. But the letters for the capital letters need to go back in, like, okay, in the table of contents, you have the Roman numeral 2, harbor master is supposed to be A, service provider B. The numbers are all, the numbers are all in the documents, but they need to go, those letters, because, again, we have, places where it refers back to things, and it doesn't make sense if we don't have those in there, unless we want to do it in some other format. So, everybody, can you be there in October for us to work on this document finally? We keep putting it off. I hope.
Let me triple confirm that date for you all.
October, what is it?
The third Wednesday is the 19th.
Perfect.
19th?
October 19th will be
Okay.
our next meeting.
Okay. Member items and reports. Doug, do you have anything?
No, ma'am.
Ted?
I handed out the
Yes.
occupancy figures. We're missing data for a year. The occupancy figures are in there, but there's a aberration because we missed data for 1 month and it ended up the next month. So the August aberration there for
Oh, I see it.
2020 or whatever it is. The rest of it, it shows that our occupancy has been,
Oh, I see. July and August are together, right? Is
Yeah.
that what happened?
yeah,
I see that, okay.
so that.
And then September's not there either.
And September, that's correct. We aren't through September yet.
No, but I mean,
Oh,
for the
that year.
occupancy for
Yeah,
1920 isn't in there either.
Right. We missed, and that's for the occupancy. What's obvious is that our occupancy has gone way up.
Yes, we
Okay.
kind of knew that.
And then, and then there's one in here somewhere with the income, which I have a hard time finding myself. Anyhow, the income, we missed a whole year of information there. And the initial ones previous were with the 35 or 45% taken out. So the large increases in income really reflect, when compared to previous years' total income, is up at a level consistent with the increase in occupancy. In other words, it hasn't, the income tracks, but because the only information I had was how much Fort Myers Beach got after the takeout and I will try to rectify that next month so that we will compare gross to gross instead of gross to net.
Thanks for doing this, Ted.
And
Yeah, we kind of knew it was up, but
But it's not up that much. It's because it's comparing the net to
Sure.
past net to the present gross. And I'll try to get that fixed next month. And expense-wise, we're tracking along. Well, I'll wait till next month on that, but we seem to be tracking along. Expenses would be covered by our present income, but I haven't got that figured out completely.
Roxanne, I don't think I can come tomorrow night to the budget,
Okay?
so I don't know if you can pass along that we'd still like
I
to
will.
have, you know, a weekly discounted rate.
I'll just state that your position remains unchanged from your last report, so,
Okay, because I appreciate that.
yes.
I don't need to clog up making it, you know, taking up time. It's a long enough meeting as it is. I appreciate that.
It's going to be a long one.
Yes, I understand. So I would appreciate that. Sam, do you have anything?
Nothing.
Bob? Okay. Well, I think hopefully some of our other members will be back, Greg and Mike, to work on the plan. We're sort of rolling along. One thing I did kind of look at, which I think this kind of, you know, having notification for things, even though maybe it didn't, it wasn't significant in this case, but looking at the notice of infractions, I think we need to consider the first infraction, and this wasn't one, can be verbally given. And I'm wondering that we need to always have things in writing, whether documentation. And so I think that's something that, when you look at that section that we need to think about in the harbor management plan, we really need to document things. And to only give a verbal thing, then you can get into the he said, she said thing. And it's pretty easy now, even an email will be a written documentation. So I think there's some things to maybe kind of tighten up in that plan as far as documentation.
I don't know how verbally ever counts for anything. I don't
Well,
know,
it's really
verbally-
hard. It's a he said, she said thing, you know, if you do the verbally thing.
That's what I mean,
Yeah.
verbally, I don't know how that accounts for anything.
So,
I would,
With emails now, they're time-stamped.
Right, and then I think with the implementation of DACWA, those
Yes.
timestamp, and that's given us a really good record of how we can communicate, you know,
Yes.
notify different, and we're working on looking into that too with just safety measures, and if, you know, a hurricane or something is approaching, we're looking into ways that we can do, you know, mass notifications to everybody out there, so.
yeah, because when you go through this plan, there's a lot of stuff, because it was written in 2002 originally, that, you know, you did things by bullhorn, and you did things by, that really, in this day and age, 20 years later, 20 years later, with the email and the DACWA and all this stuff, we need to tighten up in that document, I think, when you're reading through it.
I would agree completely, Kathy, with what you're saying, but I think I want to note that this wasn't an infraction, it was a
Understood.
reclassification.
Understood. No, I understood that. I agree with you on that, too. I was just kind of jumping to when I was reading through this and thinking about all of the things that are verbal in here, that we really probably should take a lot of that out, and things need to be in writing.
And we've been moving in the office too, a lot of our paper documentation, we're moving electronic too, to make it a little bit easier.
Well, it's much easier now than it was 20 years ago. I mean, I didn't have a cell phone 20 years ago, so, you know, it's changed, a lot of things have changed, so. All right, well, everybody is there a motion to adjourn?
Y'all want to set your,
October 19th,
October
your
19th,
agenda?
yeah. Okay.
and do you want to take her off the agenda, or do you want to have a follow-up?
Let's have a follow-up. I don't know that there'll be much to follow up, but I will have, I can bring in my report to council, because I'll have done that by then.
Yeah, there will be a council meeting by then. so
Right,
might as well
October
go ahead.
3rd is the council meeting, so let's leave that there as just a follow-up. Just put follow-up or something on it. And I think everything else,
They'll actually have a meeting after that, before we meet again.
Right.
Town council will.
Yeah, October 3rd. Yeah. Okay, and hopefully we'll have enough time to work on the management plan, but anyway, okay. Adjourn, anyone?
Move we adjourn, Lowell.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, quick second.
Thank you, Roxanne.